Okay, we're here at my dad's place at his barn, and we're going to take a look at his 28 special coupe, and he's just gone to go get it. So here he comes. All right, this is my dad, and this is his 28 coupe, and we're gonna.
Yeah, yes, to show you. I got to teach him everything.
We're gonna ask him about the 28 coupe, 28 special coupe, and where he found it. So, go ahead and tell where you found this one.
Well, like all good finds, I wasn't even looking when I started off from home and went to Hershey to look and see what everybody else had. That did motivate me somewhat, I have to admit. I highly recommend that if you haven't been there, go to Hershey when you get a chance. Anyway, on the way home, I had to go down through North Carolina and Asheville specifically. And on the way, I noticed on the internet that there was a 28 coupe. Having had a 29 two-door, which you probably are familiar with if you've ever been to Ted's garage. Anyway, I was interested, so I stopped by there, and the fellow that had it said that he had been a truck driver and he was a motorcyclist, and he wanted to go back and get another motorcycle. So I said, okay. I had a motorcycle, and now I got a collarbone with a notch in it. That aside, let's get back to this. I looked at the car, and
it was running, and
it was running, and from there I got an expert from Ted's garage to give me his opinion on it, and we found that it was running, sounded good. Put my hand on the engine. I have fingers that will find knocks, and there was nothing like that. Looked at the exhaust, that was nice and clean.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we looked at was fine until the guy from Ted's garage found that there was an interesting wiring job that had been done on this.
You want to show him?
Let me
He just recently
an example.
fixed this problem on it.
Okay.
Previous restoration.
I don't know if should I get closer? Or?
No, that's good.
That's good. Okay, this is what we found sticking out of the cup in the bottom of the steering column.
And everybody's familiar with these blue crimp-ons, and then you can't really see it, but they also have black crimp-ons and like a 2-inch piece of wire, and then the blue. So there's like a big mess of wire coming out of the bottom of the steering column.
So everything else looked good, and
The lights actually did work.
everything was working pretty much. Got it home, and then I found that the horn wouldn't work, so I had to trace it back. And I traced it all the way to here and found that the connector had pulled loose. When I put the wires together, I had a horn. So what we've done is, and this is an interesting sideline, is that our local Model A club has a tech Saturday after every meeting. So we decided to, at the tech meeting, to rewire this car.
Well, mostly the lights you did the rewiring. Just like under the dash you didn't really rewire, did you?
No, we didn't
The
rewire
ignition.
the ignition circuit.
Yeah.
That's another story, right? We have.
Yeah, we did that on my car.
Yes.
But
Anyway.
he pulled all this out and rewired up to the headlights and ran it back to the tail light. I think does this only have one tail light?
One tail light. That's
Yeah.
original.
Yeah. And we were just talking about headlights, that this one actually has the 3031 like teacup bowl shapes, and they're supposed to be the bullet, which on the 29 I've been working on, and there's a video of it. They're more bullet shaped, like a pyramid, a little bit more like a pyramid, and these are more like just a cereal bowl. So these are 3031 headlights, but they're chrome. So a lot of people like the chrome headlights better. But the other thing that, here, get the fluted. These are the wrong lenses also. So these lenses would be fine for 29, like the two-door. I could use these lenses, and they have the Ford script on them. But he was noticing, because this is an early 28.
Still sealed.
I think you can see it though through the plastic. So these long flutes all the way from top to bottom. And on my other headlight video, I talk about it, but I didn't have the example. But you can see the difference. These long flutes compared to little short flutes that, I guess this adjusts the headlight beams to where it's needed, and this is just up and down. So this is early 28. I'm not sure what month they switched it over.
What it is suspiciously close to the headlight lamps that I have on my Model T.
Yeah.
I think they're leftover Model T lights that they adapted for early 28s, and
Because your Model T is a 17,
17.
but actually the headlights weren't supposed to be on until like 18 or 20.
No, you're mistaken. The headlights were fine. It had the
kerosene.
kerosene lamps for
And
parking
headlights.
lights,
Yeah,
and
those are supposed to be earlier Model Ts with the kerosenes.
no, those were not those. That was
17?
original for 1917. 1919 was the big year. That's when they come out with the electric starter and a generator and a real battery. All of that, where you didn't have to crank it to
Yeah.
start. And before then, like on mine, you have to crank it. Now, you'll find that not just that Model T, but these Model A's, and anytime you're doing a restoration, people along the line had done some improvements, and you have to watch out for that. They might have been a good improvement in their time, but they're not, especially with the technology today, we can go back to the original and still have the performance.
Well, that's why he bought these reproduction parts, because this car should have these type of lenses, and he wants to go back to what it should have on there. And these even have the little Ford logo right there on the bottom. So these are nice reproductions. What's interesting is this is a flat, and these you could run your finger across it, and you could feel the flutes on it. But the Ford logo is out right now, but you can still see that. And I guess they went with what it was easier to clean the bugs off of, as a flat piece of glass. But he wants to go back to what was the original when this car was made.
Now, along that line, there's a little screw in the back here. I can tell you from experience, as a 16-year-old kid, that when I had that 29 two-door, I worked pumping gas on the weekends and had the garage to myself, so I decided to focus the lights, and it did make a difference. I set it the way the book said, got in there and screwed it, and it was just light, like a bit of light everywhere. But when I focused it, it put an egg-shaped pattern of light right where I wanted it. And I can say this about that Model A at that time, and is to this day true, that if you're using the original headlights and you're driving at night on a 2-lane road, watch the oncoming car's headlights, because they'll reach a lot further out. I watched that to make sure the road is clear on my side until my lights could reach it. And
These where we could pull them open. You know, will these open easily?
not when you're on camera.
Well, I don't want anything to fall out.
You don't want anything to fall out.
So,
Okay, we have a new reflector there, but you notice something about this reflector? You notice that there's no cowl light and there's no second hole like this to put in the parking light that goes in here. It should end up right here on the top. There's a parking light, which is on your steering wheel. If you turn the lever to the left, it puts on this parking light. To the right, you got low beam and high beam, and that's all a relative, you know, low beam and high beam by today's standards.
so this reflector is actually for use with a cowl light then?
Yes.
Because it doesn't have that secondary socket.
Right.
Because like the 28 two-door is just like this. It just has a single socket. And it should actually have a secondary socket on it also.
Yes.
That's why I wanted to open this up and see. You know, this is the 3031, so it should have the secondary socket and possibly a cowl light if you're a deluxe model. But
The harnesses are basically the same. But if you've got cowl lights, they run an extra wire, which you'll need to put the cowl lights in. So be aware of that.
these just go on, and there's a spring clip down here. Just pull it open and snap it on, which is handy to change a light bulb. You could just pop that open. Oh, this side has the chrome on it. So on this side, you didn't put the chrome on it.
It does, but probably you can tell on camera, but I certainly can with my eyes, that these are not new, and they're not that expensive. If you're in the business of wiring or rewiring your car, I would suggest you get this. It's not that much additional.
Yeah, these are a little corroded, and the end is rusty here. And oh, did you lose the cap off of this one?
Well, what the heck? It's always something.
You want to show them the brake light switch? Well, make sure you don't lose these caps.
Okay, we'll put that away. This little device here is what I found was being used for a brake light. The brake light on the 28 and 29 is supposed to be on the top of the transmission, and it's got a link over to the brake pedal. So when you push the brake pedal down, it pulls out on that link. That's the brake light. Apparently in 3031, they decided to do it a little differently, and they put it on the frame where the crossbar is located that goes out to all four wheels. And this is the brake light. I was a little surprised to find that they had gone through the bother of doing this, because it's much easier to put the original back on. Probably somebody with no money and a lot of time, and he found another car that had it on there. Perhaps Midnight Auto, maybe not.
Yeah, acquired it.
Yes.
So I think the other thing you've done on this car is the clutch was way out of adjustment, and I did a video on adjusting the clutch. Right after he did this, I was like, I can do a video on that. And he adjusted the clutch, and you can see that in the other video how you do that. And the fuel gauge, I think it was seeping, wasn't it seeping? And I'm not sure if it worked. So we got a new seal kit for the dash fuel gauge.
If it was leaking, it was so tiny that all it did was create a smell. It didn't create a puddle.
Yeah, it was just kind of gunky around the
And
gauge.
you couldn't really see too well in there.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was working or not, because I don't. Did you replace the mechanism?
Yes, we replaced
the cork.
There's a new float.
Yeah.
Cork. Anyway,
Did you use the cork material, or you use the new plastic neoprene?
Neoprene.
Yeah.
I used the new neoprene.
And you have to have this little special tool to get it out of the dash.
That's the key to it all. There are two special tools. Don't try to do this without the two special tools. With the two special tools, and if you've got the manual, you're
10
home
minutes
free
it's like,
basically. And
without it, you're going to chew up the chrome bezel and chew it up and fight with it. Now that's a special tool that's worth it if you're going to mess with that, or just go to a club, Model A club. Somebody in that club has those tools.
Yeah.
Because if you only need it once,
Yeah.
we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Model A's, so it's kind of worth to have the special tool. I can't think of anything else we've done on this, is there?
Yes, I pumped up the tire.
Yeah, the flat tire when he pulled up in the car.
When I
I was
drove
like,
up,
your tire's flat. And we took it up to North Carolina to the air show and parade. And I got to drive it home from that. You drove it up there early that morning. And then you've gone in several parades in this. And because that was October 21, I think, is when you bought it. So it's about a year and a half that you've had this one. And one of the things, did you talk about the radiator when you bought it? You know, he had problems with it overheating, the previous owner. And we're not sure if he knew how to set the timing correctly when he was driving it. He was new to Model A's. He only had it like a year, I think. Mm-hmm. And so he put a new or different radiator in, a newer radiator. I don't remember if he said it was brand new, and a water pump.
and a 4-blade fan.
Oh, does this have a 4-blade?
It did.
Oh, okay.
I
And
don't
you
like
went back.
I like the original.
So, then of course it has this gravel shield on it, and it looks like it has the nickel radiator shell like it's supposed to. The other thing that he's looking at doing, if he can find one, is the drum-shaped taillights. And whoever restored this probably 10, 20 years ago just put the teacup taillight on it, which is fine, but if you want to try to keep it with the, I'm thinking this, we looked the numbers up, it was like spring of 28, early 28, and that's why he's trying to put it back to the bullet headlights, and the drum taillights were earlier 28 thing. Somewhere towards the end of 28 or 29, they went with the teacup.
Okay, just a small correction there. I've got one back ordered, and I also have a loan application with the bank to pay for it.
How much are those?
It was expensive.
Pricey.
Pricey, as they say.
Okay, can you think of anything else in this car? I think it's been a pretty solid runner.
It's been a runner, and we've had no problems with overheating.
Driving it to North Carolina and back. And
Andrews, North Carolina, and back. And Ted drove it back, so, you know, and he said that it's okay for me to drive it, so.
Well, and I remember coming back, we do have one problem with it shuddering on deceleration. And we're, you know, maybe it's a motor mount. You get to do a motor mount. I did the one on the 28, and that was horrible.
I know, that's why I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, it doesn't bother you that much.
No, it feels like a Model A.
But when you're going over a hill, you know, in North Georgia, North Carolina, we have hills, is going down, and it's holding back with the engine, it'll like put a little shudder. But if I push the clutch in and just freewheel, it was fine. So it's not tires, it's not drive shaft, you know, it's something to do with when it's holding back the car, it has a little shudder on it. But, you know, if you know what that is, put a comment down and let us know if you've had that issue, and we can check it on this one. But now the sun's coming out and it's getting hot out here. Let's switch to the other cars.
One more thing. I am trying to teach him to double clutch because the Model A will shift real nicely if you know how to double clutch.
I got used to it on the way back.
And it takes you getting used to it. It's like learning to type or anything else. Once you do it, you get to where you're doing it automatically. And if your club ought to go ahead and try finding somebody, and that should not be hard. You find somebody my age that drives a truck or has driven a truck. All trucks used to require either double clutching, or if you were really good, you could shift it without using the clutch, just by synchronizing literally the speed of the gears and the truck.
Yeah, lifting the throttle and keeping it at the right
Lift the throttle
timing.
and move it real quick without going.
You get the timing right, and the shafts inside the transmission turning right.
Yeah.
It's just, these are different than a little, modern car that you rev up to 5,000 RPM and then shift. These you rev up to, 1,000 RPM and shift at 5 miles an hour, and then at 10 miles an hour. And then you go all the way up to 50.
But they got good torque. You'll have to say that lugging down,
Yeah.
which was important in 1928. They had a lot of situations in the road where you had to lug down.
Yeah, and it was slower going. You're not going 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. Okay, let's switch to the inside and do the, just show a little bit on the other vehicles that we have here.
Just a word of warning before we go in there. I got to tell you that there's been a new law passed on clutter, that if you are 80 years old or more, you don't have to worry about clutter, and I'm 83. So with that, we can move into my shop. It is not like what you might have expected from Ted's garage.
Oh, mine's got clutter too.
If he was ever to inspect, he'd have a long list here.
No. You're thinking of Paul Shin. His garage is nice with the lift and all his tools everywhere.
You're talking about big bucks there.
Yeah,
California.
out California.
Yeah.